Welcome to the DevReady podcast. Today I've got Nick Bendel joining me on the episode. Welcome, Nick.
Great to be here, Anthony.
Thanks for joining us. Do you want to let everyone know a bit about what you do and your background?
Yeah, well, I'm a former journalist who started his own copywriting agency called Hunter Scribe back in 2018. And we write content, so things like websites, blogs, social media posts, email newsletters, media releases, award submissions, ebooks, actual print books, and our clients are business owners.
Do you focus on any specific niches, or do you have a preference on sort of probably industries that you're working in and the type of content that you create?
We have quite a narrow niche. Our clients are in finance and property. So our clients are mortgage brokers, accountants, financial advisors, buyers agents, lenders, credit repair agencies, real estate agents, conveyancers, and builders.
So anything to do with housing, almost.
Exactly.
Housing and finance.
I love finance and property. That's what I wrote about as a journalist, so that's naturally where the business headed also.
Yeah. Is it more, so it's sort of when you're working with those businesses and the content you're writing for them, is it more blog posts, just keeping content fresh and updated on their website, or are you doing sort of analyses on trends and predictions on what's coming up in the market? Because I'm assuming that's going to be a big part of what some brokers or real estate agents might want.
Yeah, well, it's actually a combination of the two. So the reason, Anthony, the clients want this content is partly they want to keep updating their website so that it helps them rank higher on Google, and partly they want to keep publishing stuff on social media so they keep getting in front of potential clients and referral partners, and partly they want to send out regular newsletters so that they keep popping up in front of their database, because you can get a lot of repeat and referral business that way. So the content is a mix of news and analysis and forecasts of things to come, and that's a good way of making our clients look like industry experts.
Are you sick of writing about the rate rises over the past 6 to 18 months?
Well, I'm not, because this is just stuff I'm naturally interested in. So if I wasn't writing about it, I'd be talking about it with my friends anyway. I probably bore a lot of people because I just like talking about this sort of stuff.
Well, it's a good thing that you're working in the space that you enjoy. That helps you have some passion behind it and want to actually deliver the best to people as well, right? It's not just something you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I feel sorry for people who are in jobs that they hate. That must be soul crushing. I'm very lucky that I'm in a job I love and I get to write about stuff that I'm really, really interested in.
Yeah, I can align to those points. We enjoy what we do, and there's a lot of passion behind trying to solve problems for people and deliver solutions, which is a similar thing you're doing. We're just doing it, delivering a different solution.
Exactly.
So I've got probably a couple of points I'd like to touch on with being in the space that you're in. There's probably the rise of like TikTok style short videos and how that's affected anything to do with copy. And then probably a second point is what happened, or did you see a shift as of start of last year when the rise of ChatGPT, as I'll call it, started happening?
Well, to deal with those two separate things separately, so if we start with TikTok or all those sorts of short form videos, they can be fantastic marketing. If you have a business and if your audience is on TikTok, then doing TikTok videos is a great way to reach that audience. Or if you're someone who likes creating that kind of visual content, then that's fantastic. The whole point of marketing is to just get in front of potential clients and referrers as often as possible so you can become more visible and more credible, because that visibility and credibility leads to profitability. Our clients, they tend not to want to do that sort of content, not because it's not good, but just because that doesn't suit their audience or that doesn't suit their personality. So we help those people with written content. And in terms of ChatGPT and those sorts of AI tools, the technology is very impressive, and I'm sure it's only going to get better. From the perspective of my company, it hasn't affected our business at all for a few reasons. First, the sort of content we're writing, it tends to be a lot of news content, and ChatGPT is great at looking back in the past and sifting through articles that have already been written. But right now, it can't really write news articles about a government policy that's just been announced. And so that's one reason why right now, at least, ChatGPT can't replicate what we do. Also, you can have a massive information, but you really need years of experience and technical skill to be able to sift through that information, understand the small amount of information that is really relevant, and to understand the story behind the story. And I'd also make the point, and right now AI can't do that, I'd also make the point that it's not just about the information, it's also finding data and statistics from different sources to corroborate that information. And unless you know where that data is, you can't tell ChatGPT to find it. And even if you could, I don't know if ChatGPT could find it. So right now, AI is not a threat to our business. In 5 years or 10 years, who knows? Maybe it will be. Maybe I'll be homeless in 10 years. I don't know. But I'm not scared of the technology. I'm very excited by the technology because it's really impressive and it's only going to get better from here. So I'm really excited to see how it's going to transform business and improve our lives.
Yeah. Have you started utilizing it within the business at any point? Or is it just more testing?
Well, we use ChatGPT to generate ideas. We don't use it to write content because a lot of the content it spews out is incorrect or soulless. And there's also questions of copyright. If ChatGPT creates content, who owns the copyright? So we don't use it to write content, but it can be really good to generate ideas, especially at the end of a long day where your brain just doesn't work properly and you're struggling to think of ideas. So I'll sometimes ask ChatGPT, give me 50 ideas about X. And then I look through the 50 ideas. I'm like, oh yeah, idea number 28. That's what I'm going to write about for this mortgage broker client. Or idea 14. Yep, that is a perfect topic for this conveyancer who I'm working with. And having gotten the topic, we then use our human brains to actually write the content.
Yeah, that's a stark difference to the way a lot of people probably approach content based on how ChatGPT can do it, is just write me an article and then they paste it on their website. And then I think we're going to have a big influx of like this AI generated content that is just not providing much value to anyone because they're just giving, it's very repetitive in the way it writes things. And like I said, it's soulless. So there's no character to it almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like the word you used 20 seconds ago, Anthony, which was value. So that content is very good for filling space, but it doesn't offer value to the audience. And that has two problems. First, it doesn't establish you as an expert or a trusted authority figure in the eyes of potential clients and referrers. And second, it doesn't impress Google at all, because what Google is looking for is valuable content. Because when Google ranks websites, whatever website it ranks number one is what Google believes is the website that's going to provide most value based on the query that the user has asked. And the second ranked website is, in Google's eyes, going to provide the second most amount of value. And so if you've got really high quality content that offers lots of value, that is going to help your Google ranking. But if it's just a load of codswallop that's just been copy pasted from ChatGPT, has no value, is just filling space, then Google is going to see that. It's not going to be impressed, and that's really not going to help you at all in terms of SEO.
Yeah, the SEO is a key point when you're especially writing content online. It's how do you provide value, but have it targeted enough or hit the right keywords to then be picked up in those algorithms and provide the results where you need them on the search indexing.
Yeah, and I think the point you make about keywords is correct. You want to make sure that you've identified the keywords that your target audience is going to be searching for, and then you want to create content that allows you to naturally incorporate those keywords. But the content can't be crap that you've just copy pasted from AI, because yes, it might have those keywords in it, but users or people aren't going to want to read it because it's going to be boring. It's not going to have any value. So you want to create interesting, insightful content that naturally incorporates those keywords and that makes you look like an expert and that is going to entice readers.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I've been writing most of the content for our business and blog posts and articles that have been coming through. Since ChatGPT has come out, I use it to try and create like a draft just to get me that hour ahead of where I would have been. And then I'll go through, edit it, fix it up, add my spin or my personality to it or the way I write. And then it goes through a Grammarly check and make sure it's okay. That's our sort of workflow. But I do understand you have to provide value. Otherwise, why would anyone want to read it? You're not just putting things out there for the sake of putting them out there. Like same, like if you're watching TV, you're not going to watch something that's not going to get your interest. You'll change the channel. Same thing with you'll just change websites.
Actually, I really like that analogy. I'm going to use that now during my sales calls because I sometimes get asked, why should we pay a human rather than just use ChatGPT? I'm now going to use that line. So thank you, Anthony. I'll give you 10% of all future sales.
I'll be waiting for the checks. I'm quite good with the analogies at times. So what are probably another challenge you may have, which some businesses won't have, but is you're probably writing content for very similar clients. So are you having a challenge in having to write different content or the same content for different clients, but in a different spin on each one? Or is it hard to add their personality or their values into the article so that they can shine through?
So that's a really insightful question. And occasionally we do have that challenge. For example, we write content for dozens of mortgage brokers throughout Australia. And sometimes you will have to cover the same topics for multiple clients. So then you want to make sure you're writing about those topics differently. Often it's quite easy to differentiate the content naturally because the clients will naturally have different audiences. For example, if you have a broker from Sydney who wants to target Sydney clients and one from Melbourne who wants to target Melbourne clients, well, the Sydney person can have Sydney-focused content, the Melbourne person can have Melbourne-focused content, and that's a natural point of difference. If, on the other hand, you've got two brokers and they both want to target a national audience, then their audience is going to be the same, so you might then need a different way to filter it. But it could be that, yes, they want to target an audience throughout Australia, but still their audience is different. One broker might want to target high net worth individuals. Another broker might want to target first home buyers. So again, you've got different market. Or again, even if they both want to target a national audience of first home buyers, there are still other ways you can differentiate the content. You can cover the same topic, but approach it from different angles. So to answer your question, Anthony, generally we are able to naturally differentiate between the clients, but where we can't, then we have to force ourselves to find some sort of different angle.
Yeah, I find from my perspective, it's when we're writing content, I can sometimes rehash the same video idea or like art content or blog post a few times, but at times there's not much difference between them. It's just me writing. Probably the sentences are in a different order, potentially based on how I'm thinking. It's not too much. I find that a bit of a challenge. So, yeah, I think, as you made a point there, it's understanding who your customers are. So, what's your persona of that customer, and how do you then approach them? What value do you provide? What's going to get them interested? What's going to resonate with them, really?
Funnily enough, I was forced to deal with this challenge before starting my business. I used to be a journalist, and I covered different sectors during my journalism career, and I found no matter what sector you're reporting on, there are really only 10 stories, and you keep reporting the same 10 stories again and again. So you have to keep coming up with fresh angles on old topics. Now, to give you an example, if you watch the 6 o'clock news, it's really just the same 10 stories every night. Someone's been murdered, there's been a natural disaster, the government announces something, the opposition is upset about something. It's really just the same 10 stories every night, but it's fresh angles on the same old ideas. And so as a journalist, I just became very skilled at naturally finding ways to cover old stuff with a fresh take. And so that's something now that I just do as a matter of course with our clients.
Yeah, so it's probably a great skill to have.
It's a very, very good skill to have. And at the time, I didn't realize how valuable it was going to be.
Yeah, and it's just something you learn over time by doing it repeatedly, really. I think on that same 10 stories I think you may know this probably better than I do because I haven't studied English potentially, but I think isn't there only like 7 actual stories that we can write about? Or I think there's from ancient times something, there's like 7 actual stories that are possible to be written about, and it's just a rehash of those over and over and over repeatedly.
I haven't heard
that entire intention.
Yeah, I haven't heard the specific number, but that wouldn't surprise me. They're really there aren't that many. I mean, if you listen to a pop song, there are only so many notes that exist.
Yeah.
It's just you just put those notes in a different order. So whether it's kind of stories or music, we just try to find new ways to do old things.
And then for the clients that you're working with, are you seeing that you need to add more of sort of their personality into the content to help get some cut through rather than just what the business is doing? It's more about the actual people in the business and their personality coming through?
It depends on the client. So some clients really want to put their personality front and center, in which case we will write the content in that way. Other clients, they don't want it to be about their personality. They're trying to almost let the information speak for itself, and they want the content to present them as an industry expert. So they're happy for the personality to almost be neutral, and if that's what they want, again, we give them content to order. So it really depends on what our clients are looking for.
Yeah, I was talking to a marketing lady from Queensland last week on the episode of the podcast, and she helps on doing sort of like personal brand. And she was saying that, yeah, it's the cut through really happens when what she's noticed is on the personal, having their personality come through in the content, not just from the brand, because people don't relate to a brand as much as they would relate to a person.
I definitely agree with that. That there is a challenge though with that, which is if the client is a one person business and they only want to stay one person business, then focusing on that person's personality makes sense. If on the other hand they want to grow the company and they want the company to grow beyond them, then you're potentially creating a future problem by making everything about that person's personality, which is why most of our clients don't want to focus on the individual. They'd rather just focus on the content itself.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I'm assuming as a mortgage broker or a real estate agent, if you're the sole face of the business and then someone books a session with you or wants you to come out and to evaluate their house or sell it for them, they're expecting that person to come to the door.
And
exactly. That's, going to be the problem then. I only want to go with you because it's you, not someone that works for you.
And I think that can potentially create a problem in the future.
Yep. Yeah, it's probably limiting it. So it's really understanding where you want to be in your current positioning then. And then not just understanding your market, but where you want to take your business. Then you can understand how to position the content for that future growth as well.
And that's why it's so important that whatever marketing you do aligns not just with your audience, but with your goals.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance there that I haven't actually thought about before this conversation. I never thought about, if it's, in our example, if I'm the face of all the content, then people are expecting to have me work with them, not anyone.
Yes, which is a challenge. And that's something I had to deal with in the early days of my business. To begin with, it was a one-person operation. Now there are 6 of us in the business. So I now never talk about I will do this or I will do that. It's always we will do this, we will do that.
Yeah, I use the we instead of I. Even if I've done it, it's still we. There's just the positioning there. So touching back on probably the broader marketing and content, do you see more value in any specific type of content? Again, is it more nuance based on the business and the customers? Or can you see like a general trend as to what's been happening with content in the last 18 months to 2 years?
I don't think there's one correct type of content or one correct marketing channel. I think it's horses for courses. It really depends on who the audience is and what the goals of the business are and what sort of content they feel best reflects their brand. So if you have a very visual product or service, or your customers are very creative, it probably makes sense to put out visual content, whether that's on Instagram or Pinterest or maybe TikTok. If, on the other hand, you're working with a service that is more about information and numbers, then I would suggest written content is probably more relevant. So I don't think one type of content or one channel is any better or worse. I really think it's a horses for courses situation.
It's jumping back to a point you made earlier about writing sort of the news content and reviewing sources and understanding that, all right, where is this information coming from? A big problem that I've seen on the internet, probably 5 years, if not more, is when you start researching a topic or something that's come out, you end up seeing the same thing repeated everywhere, and they're all referencing each other. So it may be hard to find the correct source. Normally, for most people writing content, I'm assuming this isn't going to be a problem. But if you're doing topical content, which are like the news jacking, where this is something that's come out of the news, we want to put an opinion out, be timely with it in the market, it becomes very important then, I think, to find the right source at that point. Do you have trouble, or is it more because you're writing around financial avenues and things that are coming from government and legislation that it's very clear to find those sources?
This is one thing that differentiates us from other copywriting agencies. First, everything that we write is very fact-based and source-based. And second, the sources we use are always credible sources. Now, to give you an example, a lot of writers will say something like, the property market is growing strongly. Well, says who? And how strong is strong? So we don't say that. We say the national median price has increased 11.1% over the past 12 months. Well, says who? Where did you get that number from? Well, the national median price has increased 11.1% over the past 12 months, according to CoreLogic. So all the content we write, it's based on credible sources, and they're always primary sources, not secondary sources, and they tend to be data providers like CoreLogic or government agencies like the Australian Bureau of Statistics or the Australian Taxation Office, or they're just directly from government itself, a minister announcing some sort of policy or making an announcement. And in that way, you've got really high quality sources, and you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. It's not someone quoting the source, you're quoting the source directly.
And I'm guessing that's probably one of the skills that having the journalist background was drilled into you as a journalist, and that's what separates you from most other content writers. So a lot of them, from experience that I've seen, they don't have a journalistic background.
Yeah, I feel really, really lucky that I got that training. Again, at the time, I didn't realize how valuable it would be. But as you mentioned, Anthony, one of the things you learn really early on as a journalist is that if you're just putting information out there and it's not sourced, and if the source isn't credible, then readers are going to regard your writing as not being credible. And if you want to be a serious journalist, you need to make sure that the information you're putting out there is backed by quality sources. And so that's just now something I do without thinking. It never really occurs to me until I have a chat like this. Oh, wait, yeah, most writers don't do that because they didn't receive that training. Not because they're lazy, they just don't know. They didn't receive that training. And that really is a point of difference that we have from other copywriters.
Yeah, it's that almost like integrity to make sure what you're saying is factual and correct to then provide the correct value. And I'm assuming in this space, writing content, and as a journalist, you'll have critics against what you're writing. So if you're not factual, they'll be vocal. Back in the day, it would have been harder to hear from them because if it was print media, there wasn't very few. You have the vocal minority, so only a few people would comment. But on the internet now, it's anyone can rip you apart, really.
Well, yes, and actually there can be criticism in two ways. So if we were to give our clients low quality content, they would complain to us, and rightly so. Or if they were to publish that content, then their audience would complain to them and it would make them look bad. So it's really important to us for two reasons that we're providing them with high quality content. First, so that they don't sack us. And second, so that the quality they produce is getting a positive rather than a negative response from their audience.
Yeah. Do you ever have the request from clients just to then put out something maybe controversial just to try and get viral as opposed to just the steady SEO increases?
My advice, I sometimes have clients ask me about this, and my advice is always, it's much better to utter a firm opinion rather than sitting on the fence, because sitting on the fence, it's boring content. It's not offering value to the readers, as we discussed earlier. Mm-hmm. But I then add a caveat, which is you shouldn't say something that you don't believe. If you have a firm opinion and it's not controversial, fine. If you have a firm opinion and it is controversial, fine. Don't be controversial for the sake of being controversial. Instead, aim to have a firm opinion, whether that's controversial or not.
Yep. So as long as you believe what you're saying, then
exactly, because
that's probably, what matters more.
Well, if people detect that you're just saying something to be shocking, you're not going to come across as an expert. You're going to come across as someone who's just going to say or do anything to get attention. And if you're an accountant, for example, who has a reputation for saying or doing anything to get attention, would you as a customer want to do business with that accountant? I don't think so. You'd rather do business with the accountant that comes across as being credible. So it's important to have a firm opinion. And if that's a controversial opinion, fine, but never be controversial just for the sake of being controversial.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to realize. There's a lot of people out there, especially on social media, just saying things just to get views. Whether they believe it or not, I don't know, but it is happening a lot.
It is, and I think part of the reason, well, I think there are two reasons they're doing it, Anthony. First, to attract attention, but second, people have a very short-term focus. They want results immediately. They want instant gratification. Marketing doesn't work like that because get-rich-quick schemes don't work. It's not the case that you put out a TikTok video or a blog on Monday and on Tuesday you've suddenly got 1 million new clients. Life doesn't work that way. This is very much a slow burn. It's about building momentum gradually over the long term, and these things compound and compound and compound. I liked your TV analogy earlier. I'm going to use a different one, which I really like, which is a fitness analogy. If someone is overweight and wants to get fit, you can't do 10 push-ups and then say, well, why don't I have a six-pack now? Well, this exercise thing obviously doesn't work. It does work. It just doesn't work that quickly. You need to exercise on a regular, ongoing basis for many, many months, and then you're going to burn off the weight and get fit. And then once you're fit, you can't say, well, now I'm fit. I never need to exercise again. If you stop exercising, you're going to return to your former condition. So you need to keep exercising on a regular, ongoing basis. Marketing works the same way. You're not going to get instant results. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. And I know some people try to fast-track it by being controversial and saying things to get attention. That might get you attention in the short term, but it's going to cost you over the long term because people are going to realize that you're not credible. What's better is a slow, steady approach where you very gradually build a reputation for being a trusted authority figure. It's not going to work in the short term, but if you keep putting out quality, valuable content over the long term, you can build an incredible profile and reputation that's going to help you attract a lot more clients.
Yep. I thought of something to add on top of your analogy. That'll be like taking a shot of Ozempic to get that quick, that quick change. And if you don't keep it up, you'll go back, or you can then use that and move forward by making the reliable, steady progress.
Steady as she goes.
So any key advice for anyone out there that's thinking or doesn't know what to do in the sort of marketing space if they're a small business or starting up? Just any key advice that you could provide if they don't have the budget to work with a team like from your team?
Yeah, well, the good news is you don't need to pay someone to do your marketing. You can do it yourself, and and it can be free. You can record videos every day and put them on LinkedIn or TikTok or YouTube. You don't have to pay anyone to do that. You can write social media posts every day and put that on LinkedIn and Facebook. You don't need to pay anyone to do that. So the good news is you don't need a lot of money or any money to do marketing. So my main advice is just to do it, just to start. One of the things I encounter again and again is people who say, yeah, one day I'll do it. I just need to get all my ducks in a row. Your ducks will never be in a row. Or, I'll start once, I've learned everything. You'll never learn everything. Just get started. And as you get started, you're going to learn, you're going to get better. It's just like anything else. It's a skill. You're not going to be perfect when you start. Done is better than perfect. Just get started. Just keep doing something on a regular, ongoing basis. And the other thing I'd mention, Anthony, is please do not expect instant results. Please don't be the person who does 10 push-ups and then can't understand why they haven't lost 40 kilos and then say, well, obviously this exercise thing doesn't work. It does work. It just doesn't work that quickly. You need to do marketing on a regular, ongoing basis forever. And if you do that, slowly but surely, you're going to build a profile and you're going to develop a reputation for being a trusted authority figure. Slowly. It takes time. Get started today.
It definitely does. And all those points I can relive with, especially with this podcast. we didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to start one. We had 5 clients approach us in the space of a week saying, all right, we had projects built overseas and we wasted, the project wasn't off the, haven't gotten anywhere. So it was about $1.4 million collectively they'd wasted. Like, all right, let's start interviewing these startups and share these stories. So then everyone realizes they're not in a unique position because everyone is going through the same thing. And then it's, all right, we do one episode in October and then we do the next one in January. All right, let's get consistent and just try and release. So we've been trying to do that. And it is just a build up over time, and then it does compound because then you have more content out, more people see it. So I can vouch for everything you're saying there as well from my experience.
And I'm wondering, Anthony, because I know you've done more than 100 episodes, how does your skill as a podcaster today compare to episode 1?
Oh, it's night and day. The first one, so the very first one we didn't release because we were trying to do it scripted and we knew the person. So we were asking questions that we knew the answers to. And it was driving the conversation and stopping the respondent from answering. So those files have been deleted. Just for everyone listening. And then the other one was, there was the very first one we did was in probably similar to this, but there was a lot more delay in asking questions and understanding what are the right questions to ask. Where whatever I've asked you today is just off the top of my head, off the cuff. This is not talking points or anything. It's just a conversation between myself and Nick and trying to pick his brain really into what interests me. And then hopefully that's interesting, making someone else providing value to them.
So you've developed this tremendous skill by doing 100 plus episodes. And as a result, you're much, much better today than you were back then. And I'm sure 100 episodes from now, you're going to be even better than you are today because practice makes perfect. We're not born perfect at anything. We need to practice and do the reps.
Yeah. I'll change your statement there, though. Instead of practice makes perfect, practice makes progress.
Ah, yes, I like that.
I like that one better. That's I think it was Denzel Washington, a quote from him, or Matthew McConaughey, one of them. Yeah, that's you practice. There's no such thing as perfect. Cool. So thanks for the chat today, Nick. If anyone wants to reach out and learn more about you, and was it Hunter and Scribe?
Hunter and Scribe, yes.
Hunter Scribe. How can they do that?
The best way would be to contact me over LinkedIn. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. So it's Nick, N-I-C-K, Bendel, B-E-N-D-E-L. Send me a message on LinkedIn and let's chat.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And we'll put those links out in the show notes. Once again, Nick, thanks for recording an episode and joining us today.
Thanks, Anthony. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.